compass works, and I was trying to explain this yesterday, is that the point, I am the who. The point in the middle of the compass, you're the who. What, why, when, and where. And I remember these things easy peasy. Like, it all makes sense to me. Like, what, like when you're pondering, when you're thinking, like, you look up, you're optimistic, you're up there. Why, you're looking down, you're negative, you're sorrowful, you're pondering, you're down there, you're in your lower animalistic natures, you're in your lower chakras, you're about the bottom half. When is left, because it's the past, it's the part of the book that you already read. All of this is left. When. And then the where is right, like you're going that way, you're going right. This makes sense to me. Easy, right? So this being my spiritual compass, I used to tell people all the time, a map is a map is a map, because in my mind, I'm like, yo, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Like, that's what I understand from like that energy, like that Virgo energy, that processing, that like hard work into routine mixed with the Scorpio energy is like, I see it like it's more than one way to go about doing something. And with that being said, it's like, yo, I was doing all of this for nothing. And that's why I'm making these videos, because ultimately, like, again, that Virgo shit, like, I want to help, but like ultimately, like when I think about it, when we all decide, like, I remember when astrology first got introduced to me, it was like, I was a little kid, it was the 90s for sure, I was a little kid, and the Leos were popping. Like, Leos were just popping. Like, I think even my first crush was a Leo, but they were just showing off. Like, they were like, oh, it's my Leo tattoo. Like, I think I even met a Virgo who had a lion tattoo and was like, oh, it's because of my sign. And I'm like, all right, cuz. Like, Leos just was feeling themselves. And I was like, all right, bet. So when I looked into it, I'm like, Virgo, Virgin, like, Virgo, like halfway point in the zodiac, 6 sign of zodiac, earth sign, like, all right, like nitpicky, processing, analyze. I'm like, all right, and I skimmed over it just like the way that we all skim over it, because I'm thinking like, we skimming, all right, let's skim. That's like the middle. I was like, what we doing? All right then. That's halfway point to me. That's that analyzing quality. That's that processing quality. That's that, the midpoint is where you reflect, because Virgo is the 6th place in the zodiac, so that's the peak. That's the farthest that they go out, because it's actually a circle. So that's the farthest that it goes out logically before it comes back around the other side on the Pisces side. But it's like midway. So all the archetypes of Virgo make sense to me. All the energies of a Virgo make sense to me, because I'm like, oh, okay, I can see how that makes sense just behind the Scorpio nature of it all. Because I'm like, everything's black and white, but like when you have black here and white here, like there's that thin line is the gray. Like a thin line between love and hate, that's some Scorpio shit. Like that line is the gray, and like it's either or, but it can be either or on a positive or a negative side. You see what I'm saying? So all of it kind of like lines up to me, and I'm just sitting here like, oh, you dirty son of, because a map is a map is a map. Like, think about it. What were people doing back in the day when there was like no buildings? Like, there was no stores, there were no cell phones, and you and like everybody else was probably like miles apart. In whatever city or like era that you were before they brought in the trees and the cement, they were looking at the sky and looking at the ground. You can't tell me nothing. They were looking at the sky and looking at the ground, looking at the sky, looking at the ground. And when you do that enough, you create a map. So it's like when we all collectively came together and decided that astrology wasn't real, I was like, hold up. yo, but did any of us like really read into this? Because I'm looking at it, I'm like, I was with you. You were like 12 signs. Like, how's everybody burning the same day? Had to say, like, we don't like the same. And I'm like, okay, I see what you're saying. You make sense. Like, I'm like, halfway, we're rolling at that point. Like, from there on, like, I can help with this thought. From there on, that doesn't make sense. Like, I'm practicalize this thought process with this person. It don't make sense. That's some Virgo, like, archetype. That's the Virgo energy. And I'm just like, yo, no. But when I actually went and read into it and processed it and like put it together myself, I was just like, yo, somebody gotta fight me. Because there was a few things that wasn't adding up, but it was adding up after you looked into it, which is that they say that matter doesn't die, like energy doesn't die, like it's still here, it's still present and don't die. All right, but where to go? Now, all right, there's a couple, because all my life I felt like somebody was trying to play me, but listen to what I'm saying. They're saying that it doesn't die, right? They're like, astrology isn't real, but it's like old like dirt. Because the sky, the ground, yada yada. I'm sitting here like everything adds up to 1 in a million. That's the definition of a god. Like, above all else. Like, unique. And I'm just like, yo, are y'all trying to tell us something without telling us something? Because, like, even though you'll look into it and you'll be like, that can't possibly be right, that can't possibly be me, is individualized to you. Like, it comes down to even Sigmund Freud's like super ego, and like identity. Sun, moon, and ascendant. Like, it breaks down and it's true for all aspects. So I'm just like, are we sure we're just gonna do away with this map, this perfectly good map? Because they're telling you that the stars were aligned on the day that you were born. The stars aligned and made you. And I believe that because, number one, like, there's no way that you can convince me that we're from Earth. We're not from here. We're not of this place. When they were like, oh, your body's from the ground, is going to return to the ground. Like, you made you out of clay. I'm like, yo, but I'm not from here. And you know how I know I'm not from here? Because, like, when they did the autopsy, when they decided they were going to be perverts and, like, cut open bodies and stuff like that, roll with me here. When they can't cut your brain open and be like, this is when you were 9, this is when you were 12, this is when you were 10. Like, no, that means that we're a consciousness. And I was telling somebody, I was like, check this out. I was like, everything that comes from here grows from here, like, encompasses from here. Like, the earth is so much encompassing that we groom it. Like, we groom ourselves, like cut our hair and stuff like that, because it grows out here. Everything that we create something to go inside. Like, everything that we make is to go in. Like, on your phone, like, look at this camera, because you're in it. Like, the bed, like, look, I made this bed, so now you can get in it. Like, covers, like, now you can get in them. Like, shower, now you can get in it. Everything we create is to get inside of it. So I'm like, we're not from here. Like, you're not telling me nothing. So if you told me from the Bible that God created us in his image, and he created us exactly how we're supposed to be, like, he created us from up there. Like, if you tell me he's up there, like, he created us from up there, like, what are you telling me? Duh. And that philosophy is, like, hard to follow for a lot of people. I know, like, sometimes religious people look at me crazy. They're like, what? I'm like, no, I'm saying exactly what you're saying, but I'm saying it different. It's a different perspective. And that's why, like, I'm like, okay, we all really have to pay attention, because you spend a lot of time trying to be what you're not. And that's technically the law of attraction. If it's crazy enough for you to understand it, like, okay, the law of attraction is that that you want something, so you will it to you. But technically, the law of attraction is that you want something, and automatically you will the not. Like, you will bring forth everything that you don't have to get it. Because if I go, oh, I really want ice cream right now, I'm gonna start thinking, like, all the ways that I can get ice cream. But then with that, I start thinking all the reasons that I don't have ice cream. Like I'm like, oh, it's hot. Like I really wish I had some ice cream. I want some ice cream because like I feel like it would be a good day for ice cream. Like I want some ice cream right now because like it's hot right now and I really want some ice cream. Like you just start to obsess over it, right? And you draw to you the negative aspects. You draw to yourself not getting it. You draw into you like situations where it's like, oh, the ice cream truck just passed by. I ain't got no money for no ice cream. So it's like you just kind of build up the manifestations of why you don't have it. And until it becomes a desire so strong that you eventually get it because you put forth routine and planning and like you put the footwork behind getting the ice cream when it's strong enough desire. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, yo, all these things kind of make sense for life. But I didn't realize that we get lost in the aspect of life that we choose to get lost in. And because of that Scorpio moon quality, I do have like extremes in energy. Like I do have, it takes me a minute to like realize where I'm gonna put the boundary on because it's limitless, it's effortless, it's transition, it's like secrets, is like the Scorpio energy that I maintain. And I say maintain because here's the thing, in real life right now, like in today's society, you guys call that bipolar. I've done nothing but spend like a lot of my time trying to see and create boundaries, restrictions, and limits around what's gonna make me comfortable. And it's odd, like, because all signs point to not. That's what I mean. Like, we argue, we fight against like who we are initially, because my name is different. I'm not from this country. I'm naturally different. Everything when I was younger pointed to me being different. And the whole time I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just like you, like this, like just like you, like this. Like I spent a lot of my life trying to not be different. And it's like right now and around this time that I'm just like, nope, I'm different. Can't be me. Like snowflakes are snowflakes for a reason, baby. Like for real. Like all in our own image. And the more that I get reassured that, I'm like, yo, y'all playing with fire. Cause like this whole manifesting and stuff like that, I could see it. Like that's an earth quality back behind like water emotion, like manifestation, desire even. I could see where we manifest, we create our own. I could see where we create our own lives here. Like I'm just like, oh, so it's the emotion that you're feeling, but emotion is all over the place, so you can't never really tell what you're creating. Like check this out, and I realized this, but then I had to break it down and then bring it back up. This is the most ridiculous part of like again that Scorpio energy, that limitless, boundless transitioning. Because transition what? Transition to everything. That's why I say if it's true for one thing, it's true for all things. That's those two energies mixed together, and that's a saying that would come out of that. Because I'm like, yo, routine builds it. Like routine builds your desire. Routine will give you what you want. Routine is how you find like that the hard work. That's when you back it up. Like that's that halfway point. Like all of that you put in, this is what you're gonna get out. It's that cross thing, black and white. It's the weirdest thing that it all meshes together. But okay, we fight against what we know. So when I'm realizing like, yo, it's an either or situation, like I could really pick this. That's because I stayed in the negative the first half. Like the first half of my life, and I'll be honest with you, to a certain extent, I can't remember it because I just choose. That's again that shit that I'm like telling you. You can manifest your own reality. I choose not to dwell on that. But here's the issue. When I pay attention, when I zone in, when I look at what you guys are telling me to look at, you're like, oh, like that's so sad. Like the feminine qualities, the pluses, the positives, the the women type of qualities, the feminine receiving energies, all of those motherly instincts. I have a really hard time with boundaries that I just keep on with the synonyms until like it adds and piles up to what I'm trying to say. Um, all of those people that come to me, they look like they look at my situation and they look like to me like, oh, sad, like, oh, emotion, like, oh, in, like, oh, and I'm just like, what? Because on the masculine side of the situation, I'm thinking like, how am I supposed to get anything done if I sit there in that? So duality has always been like a thing that I've been able to like master, kind of. It says mastery, but it's not really mastery. Like I've always been able to bring it back. Like I'll tell somebody like, how you know what your boundaries is unless you hit them. Like you got to go far out until you realize like, oh, that's one. It's kind of like trial and error type situation. And so when I'm looking at these women and they're treating me like, oh, and I'm like, that I don't really resonate with that. And I'm looking at these guys and they're like, yeah, we get it done. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's an ideology that I can get with. So think law of attraction now, like think plus and minus, like on a battery. Think law of attraction. So I was talking to my cousin and my best friend at the time about the situation. I was like, tell me if I'm right or wrong. I'm like, the parent that we spend our most time around when we're younger, we kind of like encompass like the quality that is needed to create balance. I was like, 'cause I grew up around my mom, like a lot of majority of my life. Like me and her were extremely attached. Like I didn't have my dad or my biological dad around, and then later I got my stepdad. So like with me and my mom being around each other all the time, like she's a pretty like she's like a masculine energy, and like that's my mom. I was a kid, so she had to take care of everything, like outwardly express everything. So her internals, her emotions, her feminine qualities of that, like I sat on the receiving end of that. So in order for me to see it, sit on the receiving end of that, like I have to make logic of it, be practical of it. I have to be like kind of the masculine energy, and in order for her to feel, because she would have had to be able to feel what she's going through, you know, like she's a woman spirit experiencing woman emotions, and there's not a balance for her to bounce off of, and I'm just a young kid spirit. Like I'm just like, oh, okay. And like as I'm growing up in the mold of a little masculine charge in a feminine body. So that's why when I used to tell people, I'm like, yo, I grew up like a gay little boy. Like I used to tell people all the time, and they didn't understand what I was trying to say, but I knew the energy that I was trying to express, because I'm like, yo, I resonate with like masculine qualities because I practicalize. Like I sit here and I'm like, yo, if that don't make sense, like I'm not doing it. Like it's just so dumb to me. Like all these emotions and stuff, like I'm just looking at it and I'm like, yo, relax. I can't relate to women like that. Like I can understand where they're coming from, but I don't get them. And then I talked to my cousin about this thing because he has the same, like he grew up with his mom, right? So his mom is a feminine quality, she's a feminine charge. But again, she did all the heavy lifting. So we grew up around our parents and we have to like internalize whatever quality that they need. So his mom did all the heavy lifting and he's a male. Like, so technically he understands what it feels like to have like that weight on your back. So he is in touch with his feminine side. Like he can understand girls a little bit better. And I met a guy who's like was brought up with his mom and they had that same thing. Like he was super sensitive though, but I was just like, ooh. I was like, that's a lot of plus and that minus. And I think that's why I always understood duality, like, cause I'm always thinking like, yeah, like if someone mixes something together, I'm like, it has to go together as somebody. Like, yeah, like they were like, oh, bisexual. I was like, yeah. They're like, oh, queer. I was like, yeah. Like everything, like however you crisscross these things to me, they all make sense because duality is ultimately what makes sense to me. That's ultimately transition energy. That's that Scorpio shit. Like when they were like, oh, they're secretive and lower animalistic natures and like they're supposed to be sexy. I'm like, what are you guys telling people? Because ultimately, like, the energy is transition energy. The energy is like you have sex in private and like it's a secret until you get pregnant and people see the secret. Like, so it's the duality of the situation. It's the transitioning. And with these two qualities, like the processing and the transitioning, a Virgo is halfway point of a Virgo is the halfway point of the zodiac, right? So you're looking at halfway when you decided that you were going to process everything that you did to make a better choice for later. You're going to create a routine. You're going to plan. You're going to put thought behind this. It's hard working. You're doing this for the greater good. You're doing it for work. You're doing it to help. This is the halfway point. This is when you realize, oh snap, I'm halfway. I can do some good here, right? But mix it with that other quality and it's like, it's the halfway point. And like when you went back and started processing, you start to obsess over the good parts or the bad parts, because there's that duality again. There's a positive and a negative. You can obsess over the good or you can obsess over the bad. That's all you. But that 8th house, that Scorpio energy, that transition quality, that lower animalistic nature, that's the obsession. Like, that's that good part. That's the sweet part. That's the keep on doing that. The obsession. Keep on doing that. And you never know what happens when you keep on doing that. Like, something good might happen, something bad might happen. Like, when there's a lot of something, something good might happen, something bad might happen. Like, it's an interesting placement to have. And also, I did notice that they were like, oh, Scorpio's manipulative and this, that, and the third. Okay, I'm gonna come to the defense because nobody's really saying anything. I'm gonna come to the defense, right? If I'm really focused on my own emotions, right? And honestly, honest to God, like, I have the best of intentions. Like, I have the best of intentions when you mix those two together. So as I can see it and then I can see it, I'm just like, ah. Because look, they're saying that Scorpios are manipulative, right? If I'm so focused on my own feelings, like, picture this, like, I'm so focused on my own feelings. The only way that you can take my attention, my focus off of the feelings that I'm thinking about, the feelings that I'm feeling, is that if you have those feelings too. And then when you have those feelings too, like, I'm like, oh, okay, so how do you deal with it? Because I was so focused. And if you're focused, but you're not focused enough to draw somebody else's attention, it's like, okay, so how did you do that? And that's how I describe, like, good manipulation. Like, that's what, like, okay, the intensity and the dramaticism, the enthusiastic, the passion, like, all these things look like the same thing to me. When I found that, look here, I found out the word emotional, like what it means to me and what it means for me the other day, I was flabbergasted. I was like, apparently I'm emotional, and I just put it on the sliding scale of shit. And I'm just like, oh, so it's like dramatic, enthusiastic, emotional. Like, we gotta cut it off before it gets there. Like, I didn't know I was that. So when I see, like, when I'm given the word, when I'm given the term, it makes sense to me. So when they're saying, like, oh, you're a manipulative sign, it's like, it's not that it's a manipulative sign. It's like, I'm so focused on this, the only thing that could take me out of it is that if you can help me. Because, like, ultimately that's what I need, help. Like, I'm so sensitive to, like, picture what it looks like. Because I said this too, I was like, I'm Virgo, I was like, but I'm a Scorpio moon, so I'm sensitive. Because picture what this looks like. This looks like I'm sitting here focused on my emotions and how it's making me feel. So when you take my attention off of it, I'm like, what? Like, that's that transition. That's that, like, that's that fucking black or white, hot or cold switch. Like, that's that shit. Like, it's like, what do you want? Because now you've taken me off of my focus. Like, what energy? Like, and it can seem harsh and it can seem mean and it can seem like it has all these intense and emotions behind it, but that's not the case. The case is that I'm just dramatic sometimes. Like, that's the sad part. Like, I just be dramatic because I'm a Scorpio moon. Like, and I didn't understand it until like I realized that I'm holding all this in, and it's affecting me kind of like annoyingly, like bad. Like, picture like these two energies play out like this. Like, imagine we're all sitting in a room, right? And we're sitting down, and like somebody comes up and they turn up the thermometer a notch. And like I feel it, feel it. And I'm just like, yo, whew, it's hot in here. Y'all not hot? Like, ooh, it's hot. Whew. And I'm hot? Like, you don't feel it? And it's like I feel it, and I'm looking around for someone to tell me if like I'm okay or not. Like, if it's like, am I being too much right now? Like, this is what these two energies play out like. And I'm just like, and I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to like relax. I'm trying to bring it in. Like, I'm trying to create a boundary. I'm trying to be like, okay, so maybe it's not that big of a deal. Like, this is that secret shit before like I realized that it's a secret, before I could put a limit on it. Like, because I don't lie to anyone. I think that's stupid. Ever since I got older, like, I was like, yo, who's gonna beat me? Like, ever since I stopped being a child, stopped being like, what? So, like, all I'm trying to do now is like trying to figure out where to fit. Like, you guys are explaining to me stuff, and I'm like, yo, 1 + 1 isn't adding up. And if it don't add up, like, I think it's dumb. So I just need to process it, like analyze it, and see if it makes sense, and move it around until it makes sense for me. So we're all sitting here, and I can feel the temperature go up, and no one's saying anything. And I'm just like, oh, okay, maybe I don't need to say anything, but I feel really hot still. And like, now I'm uncomfortable. Like, now I'm just sitting here hot because I'm like, yo, like, y'all really don't want, like, now I'm mad. If I'm be completely honest with you, like, now I'm mad because I'm pretending not to be hot because y'all are pretending not to be hot. Like, I was laughing because somebody explained, like, Scorpio moon energy is like, oh, you were trying to tell them something that's small, and they blow it up to like this big dramatic sarcastic situation and ask you something completely outlandish. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I could only understand things if it's drastic. Like, that's how I language. And my Aquarius brother told me some shit the other day that just blew my whole high. Like, he sat there, he was like, no matter how many times you explain, I was trying to like medallion cookie or mandolin cookies or something like that. I was trying to explain to him what these cookies are. I was like, they're kind of like shortbread cookies, but they're more cakier than that. I was like, and they look like a seashell, and we get them like individually packaged from Costco and stuff like that. And I'm like explaining these cookies. So I had to eventually go get the cookies so he could see the cookies. And when he looked at it, he goes, no matter how much you explained that, I was never gonna get that. And I'm like, what is life right now? Are you kidding me? Like, I go through a lot. This Virgo sun thing, like, I go through a lot trying to explain this. But then I realized afterwards that I'm like, yo, you get lost in whatever aspect of life that you want to get lost in. That's why they say you can manifest your own destiny. Like, when you utilize the energies how they come, utilize them properly, and don't point them at people, because you have to realize that you're bigger than that. Everything is less dense but more dense, however you choose to create it. Because when I was on the negative side of energy, I'm a Virgo, right? So it comes out as like analytical, judgmental, processy, like nitpicky. Those are all the words that they want to tell you that I'm associated with. Like cynical, because you're paying so much attention. Perfectionist, because you've processed it and figured out that this is the best way to put it. And it's like, yeah, I'm all of those aspects, but it's bad when I put that into a person. And if I step back and I take it away and I utilize that energy in a different way, I'm like, oh, this is when I feel at my very best. Because when I can just control my setup to make it look like everything's neat and well put together, I feel so much more comfortable. Like, that's the point that I'm just like, ooh, it's my sweet spot. Like, if I leave somewhere and I don't come home for a long time, I'll like walk in my room and it's clean. I feel so good. Like, y'all don't understand. Like, I'm just like, what? I lied. Like, I did that? Like, that's that Virgo energy. And that feels blessed. Like, it feels blessed when it works out. It plays out into something that's more comfortable. Because, like they said, like, our sign, that sign does not understand what love is. I can't get it. And like the other one, like I feel it, but I can't describe it. So when they're saying like Virgos can't feel love, like they can't be loved, they can't find love, they don't understand what love is. It's like because we're the halfway point, and halfway through this bitch, I realized like if I really put focused anxiety to work, I can predict what's coming up next. I can like find that stability. That's what feels comfortable for me, but I'm doing that in a practical way. Like I'm looking back and processing and analyzing so that I can make it better for us. Because now I've accidentally created a duality. When I look back, when I decide like, oh, I'm the halfway point, and I realize like, oh, I'm the halfway point, and I look back, I accidentally created Libra. I accidentally created the scales. I accidentally created a way to relate to people because I'm looking back and processing and putting so much hard work and like, okay, I always describe it as like a kid climbing up a fence and getting on the top. Like they're the first ones to get on the top. That's that Virgo shit. Like I climbed up the fence, I got to the halfway mark, I got to where we were all saying that we were going, or the places that we're all at, like on a completely different scale. Think about what this looks like. You're the kid standing on top of the fence. You're the first one there, so number one, it's like, I'm perfect. I got here. It's hard work. Thank you very much. Like, you accept your Grammy and you're giving your acceptance speech because now you're on top of the fence. You're the kid on top of the fence, which means automatically you're on a pedestal. The Virgin and the Virgo, and automatically you're on a pedestal. Automatically your thoughts are higher, so you do get stuck in a high expectation, perfectionist kind of like mode. And it's just like I'm sitting there like, yep. All these energies are the same, and when you put that on people, that's where you have a destructive situation. Like I had this Virgo friend and I was trying to help her for all intents and purposes. Like I loved her and like, cause I love myself. And y'all see that in the videos that I recorded from earlier. Like I love myself, so I love everybody else. Like that's really how that goes. It's wild. And she's like explaining to me like how she feels about her boyfriend and how he's like the only thing that's proven to her, the only thing that's routine to her, the only thing that's solidified and stayed and like on account of planning, like falling back on, eased her anxiety. Like that's the part of what she's latched onto. That's what she's put her focus on. And I'm just like, girl, no. Because I see that in other people and I was just like, no, that was never the hit. But I understood where she was coming from, even though I pretended like I didn't understand because I judged it harshly. And let me tell you, there's a thin line between judgment and relating. And we'll get to that later because I put together an equation for those feelings too. I'll be going through it. Okay? And that's what I'm saying. Like, Virgos do have a hard time. And it's because of that middle place. It's because you took it onto your own back to be like, yo, I'm the middle. I can do some good here. That's that passive aggressiveness. Like, no one asked you to help. But you're like, I feel like I had to. That's that halfway point. That's that mom energy. That's that Virgo shit. Like, that's that yeah. Two halves of a whole, a mom and a dad. Like, that's that part of the Virgo that's just like, yo, I'm gonna help you. I didn't ask for that. I'm gonna help you. I didn't want you to. And I gotta do everything because sometimes when you leave it up to people, they don't do it right. Like, that's that slamming the door when moms comes home from work. It's like, I just got home from school and you got home from work and you're mad because the kitchen ain't clean. Like, ultimately, these dishes are from yesterday. And I couldn't have did all the dishes. Like, I didn't dirty all of them. Like, what are you telling me? Be fair with me. And I think ultimately, like, all of that, like, oh, you gotta be fair, and all that high expectation that spilled over into Libra. Because, like, that's that relativity, that's that relate, that's that balance, that's that fairness, that's that, oh, snap, we are on the halfway point. We gotta create balance. They were like, they said that the constellations of the Virgo and the Scorpio used to be together, but it was causing catastrophic moments, so they had to put the scales in between. I'm like, yeah, because like by the time I process something and I get stuck on the sweet spot, like I get stuck on the spot that I like and I obsess over it, that's, you're not going nowhere. You're never going anywhere for any transition. For like anger to happiness, you're stuck. For like sexuality, when you're just like, ooh, that's sexy, I like that part, like, but you can't be sexy with yourself, so the scales have to come between. They're like, nope, you got like for greed, like, oh, I'm hungry, like you can only get so fat, like you can't keep doing that. The scales have to come in between, like stop obsessing, stop processing, stop overthinking. Like I'll tell somebody in a minute, I overthink myself into compulsion. And it is true. I think about things on a molecular level. There's no reason to. I don't even know how long this video is. I might have to break it up into pieces, but I really do overthink myself into compulsion. It's that. It's that. And then, you know what? Hey. I never made it look so good. You lucky. You lucky, because now I could tell you, these two energies, let me tell you something. I'm snitching. Like, they were like, oh, Scorpios are for secrets and this and that. And I'm like, but y'all understand, like, that Virgo, I'm snitching. I'm telling on everybody. I'm telling. Like, after I realized that once you put emotions behind something and a little bit of routine, that's the definition of manifestation. Like, that's what manifestation looks like. I'm telling. Hey, yo, did y'all know that we didn't have to live like this? Did y'all know that we didn't have to live like this? Because I didn't know. I'm just finding out.